and welcome back to class. Okay, so in this class, we are just going to continue the project we started in the last class that I gave you 2 good days to sit with it. So I gave you 2 days basically because I wanted you to use the first day, watch the video, take notes, and the second day you can use it to practice everything you are being taught. And you can even try out new things. Like you don't have to do it exactly the way you are taught, and that's how you learn. The last class we saw how we can explore our data, then we went on to clean the data set, and today we are basically going to talk about data analysis, analyzing our data based on the business question. Okay, so the first business question says that which medical condition has the highest average billing amount? Okay, so this is the business question we have. First, let's see what our data set looks like. Okay, so now I remember what my data set looks like. They want to know what medical condition has the highest so we can make informed decisions with this, okay? And now you can see we have something on medical condition in the data set. We also have something on the billing amount. Do you think you can answer this business question on your own? If you think you can, yeah, I believe you should give it a try by pausing this video. You can just pause it, try to write it on your own, then you play it afterwards to see if you're correct or not. If you're correct, let me know in the comment section. So I'm going to clap for you. During the business question, which medical condition has the highest average billing amount? Help the hospital understand which cases are most resource intensive. And start by selecting. We want to know the medical condition first. So I'm going to select medical condition. Next, we want to see the average billing amount. So we can do average, then we do billing underscore amount. Okay, give the column a new name. We can call it average billing underscore amount. And now we can say from healthcare, we want to group the average billing amount by each medical condition. So we can use group by. We'll group by the medical condition. So I may decide to also order it. I want to order it by this average billing amount in descending order. So we can use the order by query as well. Order by, let me copy this. Okay, and then we're going to do it in descending order. From the business question that says that which medical condition has the highest average billing amount, we want to have a list of the medical condition by their average billing amount. So we grouped the medical condition because it contains the categorical data, all right? And then I just want to order it by the average billing amount column. So we can see the highest average billing amount at the top, and then it descends downward, okay? So let's run this now and see what we have. Okay, so now you can see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 medical conditions, and obesity has the highest average billing amount. Okay, so I don't like the fact that my average billing amount is in, like, I don't even know how many decimal place this is. So let's try to convert it to just 2 decimal place. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to add the round function just to round it up to 2 decimal place, all right? And I'm just going to say 2 right here. So I just added the round function so it could help me round it up to 2 decimal place. So let's run this again. All right, this looks more presentable, right? The hospital can now see that this obesity medical condition is more resource intensive, followed by diabetes, but cancer is less resource intensive, okay? And now I may decide that, okay, I also want to know like how many patients has each of the medical condition, okay? So we can just do the count. I can just do the count of all, okay, as the patients count. So the number of rows, since we have unique values in our data set, I mean, we don't have duplicates in our patient's ID, right? So the number of rows is what we want to use for our patient's count, okay? So let's run this now. I'm just adding a new column. So you can see how many patients has obesity, diabetes, asthma, and on like that. Then we can create charts with this table that we have right here, create visuals just to show our stakeholders that, okay, we've answered your business question, but we don't want to show them data like this unless it is required. So we just keep this somewhere and maybe create the visualization later. And you know we cannot create visualization in SQL. So all we are just going to do is data analysis. They may even ask you to give them a list by saying that, okay, we want to know how many patients are having each medical condition together with the average billing amount for each medical condition. Once you run your query to get this table, you can just copy this table. you see, when I wanted to copy it, I'm clicking here. You can do Control Shift C to copy. If you do Control C, your column header will not copy. If I do Control Shift C to copy, then I can just paste it in an Excel file and send it to the appropriate person. And now we've successfully answered business question 1. Okay, now let's see what we have for business question 2. Knowing the average length of stay per admission type will basically help the hospital improve scheduling and like bed allocation when we actually identify how long a patient stays by their admission type. Okay, so that is how this business question can just help the hospital. Okay, and to know the average length of stay day per admission type, you already know we have to start by selecting our query. So we want to select the admission type. So before we can get the average length of stay days, to get the length of stay days, first of all, we have to subtract the discharge date minus the date of admission. Okay, and whatever we get, the total number of days we get from this difference in days is what we can now average and then group it by the admission type. Okay, so now let's say I want to see let's say I want to calculate the difference between these 2 days. I'm going to use a function that we call dated diff. Okay, so this dated diff function basically calculates the difference between 2 days, between 2 different dates. Okay, and the difference, we want it to be calculated in days. We want to subtract the discharge dates from the date of admission. So I can just specify date of admission column, then comma, discharge date. We can now close the bracket. Okay, so now we want to calculate the difference between 2 dates, this first date and this second date, and give us the answer in days. Okay, so let's name this column stay length. Okay, and now we can say from healthcare. Okay, so let's run this and see what we have. If we run this now, you can see it gave us 2 columns with their stay length. Okay, but I have to confirm that this stay length is absolutely correct. I can confirm by adding the date of admission and also the discharge date, so I can see it side by side and check if it is actually correct. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, let me just copy this, put it here, and then copy the discharge date and put it here. Okay, so I'm just basically saying that I want to see 4 columns instead of 2. Okay, so if we run this, you can see we have the date of the admission here, we have the date of discharge, we have the admission type, we have the length, stay length, which is the difference between the 2 days, and it should be calculated in day. Okay, so you can say that the date of admission for this person is 31st of January. They discharge the person on the 2nd of February. That's 2 days. They stayed for 2 days. That's correct. Since we've confirmed the first 2, that means that this stay length column is absolutely correct. Okay, but remember that we've not answered the business question, right? The business question is actually saying the average length of stay per admission type. This is not the average. This is just the stay length per patient. This is what we got here. Okay, so now to get the average length of stay per admission type, I'm first going to save this table inside a temporary table. I'm just going to keep the table in a temporary table. So I'm going to say into and hash. What are we going to call this table? I don't want to stress my brain, so let me just call it temp for now. Okay, so if I run this now, we basically created a temporary table. Let's see what the temporary table looks like first. So I can just select all from temp. So let's run it. You can see that it's exactly the same table that we have here. We just saved it inside this temporary table name. Okay, so now from the temporary table, we can now do the average that we want to get, the calculation. So I can just say, instead of selecting all, I only want to see the admission type. Okay, and I want to see the average of this stay length. We're going to calculate the average for the stay length. Okay, so we can just call it as avg underscore stay length. Okay, and you know that we have to group it by the admission type so it can get the average. So underneath here, we are just going to group by, and then we are going to be grouping it by the admission type. Okay, so first we got this table and then we saved it inside the temporary table, and now we want to get an extract and also using aggregation from the table that we have already. So if we run this now, you can see now that it's now giving us the admission type, the different categories of admission type, together with the overall average stay length for each admission type. But it looks like there's nothing to see here. The average stay length for emergency, urgent, and elective is the same. Okay. And these are some of the things we have to keep in our reports, in our dashboard, in our data visualization, and all of that. And you can see we've successfully answered the second business question. So let's go on to answer the third business question now. The third business question says, which insurance provider covers the highest cost cases? To know the insurance provider that covers the highest cost case, all right, so that means we are working with the insurance provider column. We want to know the insurance provider that covers the most billing amount. Okay, so what we are just going to do is select insurance provider, then get the sum of the billing amounts and group it by insurance provider. Okay, so we are just selecting two columns. We want to see the insurance provider and the total billing amount from this table name, and then we want to group by the insurance provider. So let's run it now and see what we have. Okay, now you can see the different insurance provider. I think I want to order it in descending order. So I want to order it by this total bill column. Then I want it to be in descending order. Okay, so let's run the query now. So now we can see that it looks like Cigna is the insurance provider with the highest bill, while Aetna is the insurance provider with the lowest bill. And then this is the trend. Okay, this is basically used for like negotiation or like financial planning. So if you want to plan our finances well, we have to see which insurance provider has the most bill, okay, highest cost, and which one has the least cost. So we know if we want to negotiate or we want to plan our finance very, very well in the hospital. Okay, so now let's move to the next business question. Okay, so the next business question says, what are the most common medication used per diagnosis? Okay, so we can see that this is the medication used per diagnosis. That means by their medical condition. Okay, we now want to know the most common one. Means if you want to know the most common something, that means we are doing the count of, right? So we are just going to write our query now. I'll select my medication condition, and I'll also select this medication, and I'll also count it to know the usage of this category after I've grouped it, after I've grouped these two columns. Okay, so let's do the practical aspect of it so we understand better. So first I want to select the medical condition column, then the medication column. Now I want to count it. Okay, so we can just call it as usage count. Okay, and then we can do from healthcare. Now we want to group it. So before you to count it, you should first group these categories. You should group them into categories. So I want to group by the medical condition and the medication. Okay, so let's run this first before I order it, so I know what I want to order it by. Okay, so you can see by the medical condition, we have asthma, the medication, this, the usage count is 1,823. So let's try to order it so that we can gain more insight into it. So let me order it by this medical condition and the usage count. Okay, so now let's run it. This is the first medical condition. This is the medications people used for it, and also the usage counts for each of the medication per medical condition. And we can also see for this second category of medical condition, these were the medications people used, and this is the count of how many times people use that medication. Okay, so this can basically help us to optimize medication stock. Okay, so we can optimize the medication stock, like, okay, based on their medical condition, which medication should we stock up, and also like it can help us with the prescribing guidelines, how we like prescribe drug to the patients. Okay, this is what this insight can help us with in an healthcare settings. Okay, and now that we've answered this next business question, let's move on to the last business question, which says that what is the average time to discharge by hospital? So maybe you want to gain insight into which hospital discharge faster, which one takes longer to discharge. And maybe after gaining insight to this question, we can ask more questions like, okay, so maybe the hospital that is delaying a patient in discharge, what medical condition are most patients in that hospital? Maybe that's the reason for the delay. And the hospital that is discharging patients very fast, what are the medical condition, or why are they discharging patients fast? So these are further analysis that can be carried out after this present one. But remember that whenever you're carrying out an analysis, you answer the present business question, all right? And you can have future analysis that you want to carry out that you can mention in your presentation. Okay, so for the average time to discharge by hospital, we kind of did something similar, I think, for business question 2 or 3. Here we calculated the average length of stay per admission type. This one is for the admission type, but now we want to do by hospital. Okay, so first I want to select the hospital right here. And also the second column that we want to do would be the difference between these two dates. Okay, so then we are going to use the dated diff, okay, function, and we want to find the difference between the discharge date and the date of admission. It should be calculated in days. Okay, so I want to say dates of admission, comma, discharge date. And we can say that is as the stay length from healthcare. Okay, let me just save it in a temporary table to make my work very easier. So now we can first save this inside a temporary table. So let's call it stay length table. Stay length. Let's just call it stay length table. Okay, and then we can save the table inside this temporary table. After we did that, then we can just call for the query that we actually want to see. So now I can just select, I want to see the hospital column. I also want to see the average for this stay length column. So I can do average for the stay length. So I can just call it as average underscore stay underscore length. Okay, so you can indent it if you want. Okay, let me indent it so it doesn't get confusing. But I believe we are professionals, query writers now, and that is why I'm just writing it anyhow I wish. Okay, so now we're going to get the average. Then we can say from this temp table that we created. Okay, so let me just copy it and put it here. So I want to group by the hospital now. Okay, so I'm going to say group by hospital. Okay, so now let's run it and see what we have. Remember, it's a temp table, and whenever we create a temp table, we don't need to run everything together. If we created this in terms of city, then we would have need to like run everything together. So if we run it now, you can see that by hospital, we can see the average stay length by hospital. So let's order it so that we can see which one has the most average stay length and which one has the least average stay length. So I want to order it by the average stay length, which is right here. Okay, let's do descending order. Okay, so we can see that these are the hospital with the highest average stay length, and if we scroll down to the bottom, we'll see the one with the least average stay length. Okay, so you can see that these are the ones with the least average stay length. So we can just make a list. I can just say having maybe average stay length equals to 30, because we have a lot of hospitals that the average stay length is 30. So we want to check up on those hospitals to know why their average stay length is very high compared to other hospitals. So I can just add having clause here to only have a list of the hospitals that the average stay length is 30. And this is how we can answer business questions and gain insights into the data. So this brings us to the end of our analysis in SQL. This is how you can basically work on a project using SQL, from the ask phase to the prepare phase of preparing your data, getting to know your data, to the process phase where you get to clean your data using your query, right? You see that it's still the same process like we did in Excel. There's no much difference with what we did in Excel. It's just like learning different tools to solve the same kind of problem. Okay, so that's why I made you to understand the process. Okay, the process is what will help you know how to solve the problem, because data analysis is not just about the software tools you have to learn. Is about knowing your thought process. It's about your thought process. How will you solve a problem if you're given? Okay, and that is what it is majorly about. And this brings us to the end of SQL at this time. All right, so if there's any other thing I need to chip in for SQL, I can make another video along the series and just chip that in. But for now, this is just the beginner level SQL query that you need for a company as a junior data analyst. So we have two major software tools to learn before we finish our 90-day series. Okay, and the two major software tools we need to learn are Power BI and Tableau. Okay, so in our next class, we'll see how we can make use of Tableau. We start with the training on Tableau. How can we install the free version of Tableau, because there's a paid version, but because we are learning, we don't want to use the paid version yet. So we are going to see how we can install it. What do we need to know about Tableau, the interface? We can also try to create like a dashboard, maybe the dashboard for this business question. We'll try to create it in Tableau and you see how we can do that. Okay. And also, after we are done with Tableau, then we now move to Power BI. I'm going to look for business question and also another data set in a different niche that we can solve the problems together and also have it in our portfolio. Okay, so now you already have two projects in your portfolio. You have the first one on supply chain optimization using Excel, I believe, and when you have the healthcare project that you just did in SQL. Okay, so this project, I want you to save it in a file. I'm going to show you how you can create a portfolio towards the end of this section. Okay, so you want to have your portfolio in one place, and when you are going for like, and when you want to apply to a job, you can include your portfolio link in the and when you want to apply to a job, you can include your portfolio link in your resume or your CV. So I'll see you guys in the next class, and bye for now.